This was such a whack week. I don't even know how to rank these teams. Just kidding. Let's get into my Week 7 power rankings. Kicking off this list is Carolina's second consecutive appearance at number 32. They took a 21-point loss to the Miami Dolphins. I can't believe I was high on these guys. They went up 14-0 on Miami and then got outscored 41-7. I don't care about their start. This team still got blown out. Defense isn't there, but Bryce Young had a good game, or at least the best game of his short career. The Denver Broncos remain in 31st this week, which remains as their lowest ranking this season to date. They lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 19-8. Denver didn't really prove much outside of the fact that their offense couldn't capitalize on good defensive performance. As an overall team, there's not much to add or subtract. They remain here for a reason. This is the final equal ranking until 25th, as Chicago is 30 this week after their 19-13 loss to Minnesota. Fields getting hurt did not help this team, but Bagent looked good for an undrafted free agent. Everything just looked as it normally does, so Chicago can't make it past 30th place. They do have potential nonetheless. Down 2 spots to number 29, I have the Arizona Cardinals at this slot. This is their lowest ranking since their last place ranking in my Week 3 rankings. They lost to the LA Rams 26-9 in Week 6. Arizona, what happened against LA? Without James Conner, this offense looks lost. The defense is whatever like we expected, but this overperforming offense decided to take a week off. The biggest drop for the second straight week. New England comes in 28th this week, dropping 5 spots from last week, 11 over the last 2 weeks, and 14 over the last 3. They dropped to 1-5 after a 21-17 loss against the Vegas Raiders. Ouch. New England's defense has a fine game, and the offense still can't elevate themselves well enough to win one of these. Now at 1-5, they face Miami and Buffalo over the next 2 weeks. Big test for the defense yet again, but this team will be 1-7. The New York Giants move up 2 spots this week to number 27, their only increase of the season. They lost to the Buffalo Bills 14-9. New York finally got their increase this year after coming close to defeating the Bills in Week 6. Offense still looked bad, but the defense finally had their breakout day, dominating in the run. Now, this needs to stay consistent. At 26, the Washington Commanders rise 2 spots after their Atlanta win. This is their highest ranking to date after their win over them 24-16. The Commanders' defense finally got on cue last week, despite the game being against Atlanta. Offense looked good, getting another good attack on another good defense. Shout out to this O-line for performing well. The Indianapolis Colts stay even at 25 this week, remaining at their season-wide peak. They lost to the Jaguars 37-20 in Week 6. The Colts are 3-3 this season. They may have gotten blown out by Jacksonville this week, but they are on the rise. Indy has the talent to get this team to 7 wins. Do I think that will happen though? No. In the 24th spot this week, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a 2-spot increase from last week, and this ties their peak for the 3rd time. Vegas has the upside. I don't see it with Jimmy G, but they still defeated New England with Hoyer as their signal caller. The receiving threats are great enough for anyone to play under, so no matter the QB, this offense can be good. The Tennessee Titans come in 23rd this week. They move up a spot from last week but can't seem to crack anything higher than 22nd. The Titans took a London loss to the Baltimore Ravens 24-16. Ryan Tannehill is likely out for the immediate future, but I won't hold that against Tennessee. They've been needing a QB change to test out those waters, and I will continue to say this. When Derrick Henry doesn't play well, this team doesn't play well. Wait a minute, he did play well. Okay, I'm concerned. The Atlanta Falcons are no longer the NFC South's second best team. They fall to 22nd this week, which is down 3 spots from Week 6. Atlanta has an issue with being polarizing. After defeating Houston in Week 5, they fell hard to the Commanders. Desmond Ridder loses his first home game ever, and I feel like it's just going to go downhill from here. Down 1 spot from last week, I have the New Orleans Saints. This polarizing roster leaves the top 20 for only the 2nd time this season. New Orleans lost to the Houston Texans 20-13 last week. The Saints are looking fantastic on defense, but on offense, it's not looking too hot. Derek Carr is not looking like who they hoped he would be, but I'm not going to say anything that he's playing bad. He could be playing like Mac Jones right now. The Minnesota Vikings are slowly reaching back to their ranking, moving up one spot to 20th this week, their 4th time this season in that 20th position. Minnesota did barely defeat the Bears and Tyson, but they're back to 2-4 after a bad start. Besides, divisional matchups are normally like this, and the Vikings and Bears aren't extremely far apart on the rankings. After a dominating win, the LA Rams move up 3 spots to number 19, a new peak for them on my power rankings. Los Angeles is still having a surprising year, with Matt Stafford doing his thing and the run game being surprisingly elite. This defense has been falling back since they shocked me the first couple weeks, but despite that, they continue to rise. Moving down one spot this week, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 18. They lost to the Detroit Lions 20-6 in week 6. Definitely a down week for Tampa, but playing Detroit is hard nonetheless. This offense is better than expected, Baker Mayfield should be credited for that, and this defense is underperforming a little bit. The Green Bay Packers are 17th on this week's rankings. They are coming off a bye week and get caught in Houston's crossfire. Green Bay is having a concerning stretch of matchups, but I still have my hope. Love is regressing a bit, and the offense is going with him, but this defense is still playing close to the top 10. In the 16th spot, the Houston Texans find their way. This is a 2-spot increase from last week and a new peak this year for the franchise. CJ Stroud is absolutely the real deal. This defense is doing their thing with veteran leadership. This coaching staff are all making their strides. Houston is putting themselves in the mid-pack, which is not what anyone expected, even me who said they would be underrated. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 15th this week after their bye week. Even with a bye, they go down a spot due to the New York Jets win. Not much to say here, Pittsburgh bad offense, good defense, cool. The New York Jets move up one spot after their upset win over the Philly Eagles. This is tied for their highest ranking since my week 3 rankings. This Jets defense is legit. I still can't trust Zach Wilson and this offense, but they did their thing against a good Philadelphia defense, and I'm going to keep saying this week in and week out. They are a playoff caliber team until the defense suffers a fallout. Lose-lose situation for the Dallas Cowboys and this week's number 13 team, the LA Chargers. This is a big 5-spot decrease from last week and their lowest ranking since my week 3 power rankings. They lost to the Cowboys on Monday Night Football last week. Their defense surprised me, but that offense, the discipline, this team is not ready for the playoffs. Sure, they absolutely have to make it again, but they won't make it far. Number 12 this week is the Seattle Seahawks, staying put from last week despite their 17-14 loss to the Bengals. Seattle is an intriguing team, as I still don't know how much I can trust their defense. The coverage is doing really good, but they can't hold them in for much longer. To get inside the top 10, they need a consistent and great pass rush along with a reliable run defense. Up 3 spots from last week, the Bengals get back up to 11th. This is their 2nd straight week of rising due to their comeback this season. Bengals offense is finally looking in tune, but this week was a slight setback in that aspect. But their coverage did its job this week, getting in the way of some great passes by Geno. Congratulations, Cincinnati, you're back on the map. The Jacksonville Jaguars find their spot in the top 10 for the 2nd time this season and the 1st time since week 2. Their spot is a 1-spot increase from last week. Jacksonville dominated on offense against Indy, and Indy's defense isn't as bad as I was expecting it to be this season. Despite that, Jacksonville still impressed me in week 6. They finally make their way back to the top 10. The Baltimore Ravens slot in 9th this week, staying put in their spot from last week. Probably the worst defensive performance of the year for Baltimore last week, but their offense came out ripping. Slightly inconsistent all around, but that's alright. They're still a great team overall. The Dallas Cowboys come in 8th this week, getting caught in the crossfire. They are down 1 spot from last week, their lowest ranking of the season outside of their preseason 10th place. This team somehow fell 1 spot despite winning an away game. It's definitely weird this week. but Dallas didn't impress me with their win, especially on defense, and with Cleveland passing them, they end up falling. The amount of concerning wins couldn't keep Philly up there for long enough. The Eagles come in 7th this week after their loss, down 4 spots from last week and their lowest ranking of the season. The Eagles have continued to allow teams to fight in their matchups, and now they finally take their first loss to the Jets. Don't get me wrong, this team is still great, but this defense is inconsistent, and this offense is not as efficient as it was last season. After a huge win over the San Francisco 49ers, the Cleveland Browns move up 4 spots this week as the biggest gainer. This is their highest ranking to date. But wow, I was not expecting this to happen. Cleveland pulled out the win with a backup quarterback. This defense is the real deal. They have the chance to be historically elite as a unit, good all the way around. At number 5 this week, I have the Buffalo Bills. This is down 1 spot since last week, but it's their 4th straight week in the top 5. Buffalo beat New York in very dramatic fashion, and they debatably should have lost that game. They win anyways, and along with another dominant defensive performance, they only lose 1 spot in this week's power rankings. Coming in 4th place this week, the Detroit Lions find a new peak. This ranking is also 2 spots up from last week. Detroit continues to just ball, and they were close to number 1 contemplation this week. I want to see more consistency from this defense, and I think this offense have proved enough. It's time for all of this to come together again. The Miami Dolphins lock in number 3 this week, moving up 2 spots from last week and returning to their highest peak of the season. No questions asked, this offense is the NFL's best. That's exactly why they make their way up to number 3. Sure, this defense is concerning, but this offense is historically elite. Remaining in 2nd place this week, the Kansas City Chiefs show up here. This is their 2nd straight week at number 2. Kansas City was contemplated for number 1, but after thinking about it more, they put up 19 points on a terrible Denver defense. They came a lot closer than they were previously. But for now, they still can't get their number 1 spot back that they lost after the first week. And despite their first loss of the season, the San Francisco 49ers are still the number 1 team in my power rankings. This is their 6th straight week at number 1. They did lose to Cleveland, who has a phenomenal defense, but put this into the grand scheme. They should have won the game, and they were without their 2 best offensive threats. If everyone returns healthy, they should easily defeat the Vikings this week. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I release a power rankings video every week along with a film study and soon to be coming Mock Draft Monday. If you're not subscribed, you're missing out. Once again, I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and thank you guys so much for choosing this channel as your source of sports coverage. I'll see you guys in the next video.